Hey folks, Patriot Appliance Repair. We're going to work on an LG washing machine today. It's a front load LG washing machine. We're going to replace a pump. Stay tuned for the video. Alright, so we're going to be working on an LG washing machine. The first thing that you want to do is whenever you come to any kind of appliance, whether you're working on a washer, dryer, refrigerator, cooktop, is you want to make sure that the machine is unplugged. Reason being is, especially when dealing with electronic control boards or any type of repairs that require electronics, you don't want to send electricity through it while you're doing it. It's a pretty basic concept, not very hard to figure out, but I thought I would mention it. So, we have an LG drain pump that was burned out on this particular machine over here in Austin, Texas by UT. We're one of the fraternities at UT. Got a couple of students over here that obviously need their washing machine. There's lots of them, lots of activities that they get into, so we got to make sure we got a good functioning washing machine. So, here we are. We have a tub full of water, and so in a situation like this, you can do one of two things. This is not our house, but hey, look at this. We have a bucket. So, you want to get down here at the bottom. The reason I took this off, this is a kick plate. Not all washing machines, front load washing machine, have this, but this one does. You take this off, put a bucket underneath it, and come here. You have one of two ways of doing it. You can do it the slow way. This is clogged up, so this is not going to work. So, you obviously would have to do it the second way with our machine. Take this off, get the drain bucket underneath it to make sure that you can catch all this water, and I will let it come out a little bit. There's a whole lot of water in there, so I'm not going to take this entire thing off, only because some of the water is draining to the side over here. So fortunately we're in a garage where there's a drain pan, but if this was in the laundry room, this probably wouldn't be a good setup. We would need some kind of towels underneath to kind of absorb some of the water that comes on the side. So this is going to be a couple of different times that we're going to open this up to get all the water out of here, only because we have so much water in the machine. With a non-working pump, I cannot get rid of this except this way. So let's wait till this drains out, and we will go forward with the repair in just a little bit. Alright, let's dump this out. Go out and dump this water. Alright, we're going to do this a couple different times. Alright, let's do this the second time. On a scale from maybe 1 to 10, a drain pump on a LG drain pump replacement, I would say is more of a 6 or a 7. If you're a mechanical engineer, maybe a 4 or 5. If you're somebody that likes to tinker, you're really good at it, you like tools, probably a 6 or 7. But there's going to be a couple different places. It's going to be pretty sharp when we take it apart. You always got to be, I mean, if you have gloves that you're comfortable with working, that you use outside in a garden, when you're working in your garden bed or something like that, you can use those if you have the mechanical gloves. I have some, I use them sometimes, but I'm a little more experienced with this, so sometimes I don't. But as you see, when we take this machine apart, it's going to be, there's a couple different places, there's going to be some sharp spots, so just be careful not to cut your hands on the inside or the outside. The back of the hands is the ones that usually get all the brunt of this sharp stainless metal. Alright, one more bucket will finish up, and then we can go forward and actually get into the repair. Alright. Now, I have some tools in my pouch that in my line of work, in our line of work, we use these a lot. These are crimpers that we can use, but even with that much water, I don't like doing it, so we're gonna clamp the hoses that go from the tub to the drain pump assembly, we're going to clamp them with these, and that'll potentially hold the water in there. But this is not a regular household item, so you wouldn't buy these at H-E-B or Lowe's to put in your drawer. So because of it, I emptied out the machine a couple different times so that the people would know what to do with the water that's in there. So whenever you take the drain pump off, all that water doesn't fall into your floor. Alright, so first things first. If you have a towel, bath size towel at your house, put something underneath your knees. That really helps a lot with, you know, having to be in a position this low to work down. Here, the first thing that you want to take off is your spring that sits around your boot. You got to be careful with these. A lot of these get rusted, especially down here at the bottom. They get rusted, so try not to rip them or tear them. They're about maybe $25 a piece. So if you rip one, you have no choice but to buy another one and put it on there. Once you take that spring off, your door boot, you push it in, you take it off of the door. This door boot sits around this lip right here, and the spring goes around it so that the door can seal the door correctly. As a tool, you would need a Phillips Phillips bit. That's pretty much the only thing you're going to use in this entire repair. Everything is with Phillips screwdrivers. Take your Phillips, take off the door lock mechanism, and just have one individual place where you can keep all your screws so that you know whenever you get finished, you'll have them all in the same place. Once you take that off, the door lock mechanism will fall in, and you can allow it to fall in. Now, there's 3-4 more of the screws right here. This is bolted down to the top of the washing machine, so we have to take these screws off first in order so we can take the top apart. Got a little bit of build up. Just want to see your screws, so clean them out a little bit. You can see your screws. Put my phone on silent. Alright, sorry about that, folks. Got the phone on silent. Now, we take the top part off. Again, keep your screws in one location so that whenever we put this back on, as you can see, this pan where all the water from your water dispenser comes in is dropping down. It has 2 clamps on each side. We'll take this cover off. It's a little bit rusted. So, put that to the side. On this side, if you could come over here and look, there's 2 clamps that sit in there, and on that side you have 1. So whenever we reassemble it, I'm gonna make sure I'm gonna put those clamps in its particular holes so that you can it'll sit on there correctly. If you don't do those, by the time you try to put your screws in there and everything else, you'll have a real hard time getting it in there. So that's something that I want to keep in mind as you're doing that. And if you have a screwdriver or a knife, I like to work a lot with my knife because it's a little bit sharper than a screwdriver. Pop that down. Now that's done. That's out of the way. So that's the top part that holds this together. A putty knife is the next thing we're going to need, is to open up the top. So my putty knife, get in here, slide it in the middle, and as soon as you find it, you knock the putty knife in, and there's a lot of detergent in between here. There it is. Okay, that knocks off that side. Come back to this side. You kind of feel for it, so when you come to the left, you stop in there, you pull it out a little bit, and you set it on there. Voila. So now we have this off. So this is what a washing machine looks like in there. If you want to know what a washing machine really does, it sits at an angle, has 2 springs on each side, and there's about 4 legs on the LG washing machine. There's 2 on one side and 2 on the other side to keep the machine from spinning this way. The purpose of these springs is to absorb the shock whenever the centrifugal speed is really fast. You have 1 spring here and 1 on this side, okay? So that's how the machine works. Give me 1 second, I get my screwdriver so we can continue on with this repair. Now, we have 2 screws, 1 here and 1 here. These are the ones that hold the front panel down. On here, take this one off. Sorry, I'm kind of covering this other side. I know you can't really see that well, but you kind of see it before. So the 2 screws that hold this panel in the front are here. Now, There's also 2 other screws at the bottom that you need to see, because this machine won't come off the bottom. So you come down here, there's one that holds the plastic outside cover that holds it in right here. Screw to the side. Then you knock this one off, take this out, pull that cover out, and then there's an additional screw. I'm not too happy about this one because you have to take this one out at an angle. I'm gonna put a little light on it so you guys can see it. Down here, you see that screw down there? A lot of times because the water gets down there, it gets stripped, and you can see my drill is at an angle. But I use a size 2 bit, which is really good. It gets really good into these Phillips screws. So you can take that off, and now we're good to go. We can take this whole panel off. All right. This panel itself is a little bit sharp, but it's not too bad. Go back. Now we got the panel. All right, here's where the door lock mechanism used to sit, right here, right? So the door lock mechanism can sit inside there. Whenever we reassemble it and put it back together, I'll show you how to put it back on. But make sure the door is closed, because if you take this off with the door open, it's going to be swinging everywhere. So you take that on, put this down, and pull that up, and get that out of the way so we can proceed on with the repair. All right, on to the drain pump assembly. Here's an LG drain pump assembly. Down here are the legs. I'm going to show you with my light. The legs that I was talking about that keep that tub from spinning from side to side. There's this one here, and there's one in the center in the back. You can't really see it, and there's one over here. So you have one on the left, one to the right, and one in the back. And those particular legs keep this individual tub from twisting this way, because the centrifugal force goes this way real fast. You got the springs at the top that hold the weight of the tub, along with all the water and all the clothes, and it absorbs the shock when it's spinning real fast. Fallacy number 2, when you bought this machine, you were at Lowe's, Jimmy, John, or Susie, whoever sold it to you, said you can put grandma, the kids, and everything in there. Don't do that. All the weight of the clothes that sits in this washing machine sits in the shaft in the back here. There's a shaft behind here. There's a spline, but there's a shaft that goes into a tub bearing. And so all the weight of that particular tub and all the clothes and all the water sits in that particular bearing. If you overload it, whenever it spins real fast, it works its way out of there. When that back bearing goes out, I'm sure somebody in your family had a front load washing machine that the tub bearing went out. A repair on something like that is so impractical. It's super expensive to labor. Everything would have to be taken apart. So just some food for thought to remember. Do not overload your front load washing machine. Don't wash rugs. Don't wash blankets, comforters. The things that I like to tell all our customers to wash in these machines are intimate clothes, pants, shirts, t-shirts, stuff that you wear, stuff that you need on a daily basis. If you start washing all any rugs, for instance, like bathroom rugs that has those little hair that comes off of them, anything that rips in here goes through here and it gets stuck in this clean out. If you don't clean it out, it passes through to the pump. That's the reason why we're doing a drain pump repair today, because somebody's pump broke and potentially something got caught in the propeller, broke the propeller off the shaft of the motor. So, let's get our pump, let's get our clamps. So if we have a little bit of additional water, we'll take our clamps, put it on the tub. Here's the hose that goes from the tub to the actual drain pump assembly is underneath the machine, and you put this on there. Yeah, we're trying to get a little bit of light for you guys so you can see. Since I have 2 of them, you want to make sure that one gets all the way to the edge over here. When you pinch this, you want to make sure that you're close to the edge right here, and I'm going to put one on the other side. That way all the water will stop, okay? Opposed to it running all over the place. And I know these conditions in the garage are a little bit more forgiving, but if you're in a customer's house and we're dealing with, even with tile, you know, you don't want to just put water all over the place, but some households have hardwood floor and so on and so forth, and you don't want to deal with water spilling, mold, and stuff like that. So that's that. Alright, that's that. Now, this is where the sharp parts come in. On this side sharp, on this side sharp, underneath potentially I could catch some sharp corners. So to save the back of your hands and to prevent you from looking like one of the guys from the Fight Club, all busted up knuckles, you want to really be careful when you come around the sharp edges. Who was it? Brad Pitt was in that movie, I think. Brad Pitt and the guy from the Italian Job. I forgot the guys' names, but yeah, if you don't want to look like one of those guys, your knuckles. Or Brad Pitt in the movie. What's the name of the movie? Oh wow, I forgot. Where he was in Ireland. He was a boxer in Ireland. Wow. He had that British accent. Anyway, getting back to our repair here. The first thing that you take off is this cover on top of the pump. This cover, the purpose of this is to prevent water from getting into these two connections right here. This is your connection that brings electricity to the pump, okay? I disconnected it here. You have a black and a brown, and you hook it up in here. So this is what comes off first. Then you have 3 different screws. I already took one off, the one that was on the back of this one, but then there's 2 more. So I have an extension on my drill. I can knock this off, take this one off. There's my second one. There's my new pump. All these pumps come with 2 gaskets. Make sure whenever you replace this pump that this little rubber gasket is inside there, because if you put your whole machine back together and that gasket's not in there, as soon as you put water in there, water is going to start coming right in between the pump and the pump housing. So you got to have that rubber gasket on there before you put this entire machine back together and you realize that your washing machine is leaking. So that would not be a good day for anybody. Alright, we had a little bit of leftover water, and you can see here the space between this propeller. This is the reason why, if you can look in there, this is broken off of the shaft of the motor. I'm holding it like this for your benefit so you can see that this propeller is broken off the shaft of the motor. So what we do is, if you can take a look, this is pretty important also. There's 1, 2, 3 different screws where these were in. You want to keep them in the same position. You don't want to change the position of the screws, right? So you get it at a certain... This is what I was talking about, getting this gasket, making sure that this is on here, because this is what creates that seal. So you put the machine, it has some guides in there that'll get you in the right holes. Once you get it in there, it's kind of difficult because you have to hold it back and you have to hold it together and then put the screws in there. So once you work it in there, you kind of look to the side to see if you have a good fit. If you do, take your first screw. You're probably not going to use a drill like myself. Tighten it down. Don't over tighten it because this is plastic. As long as you have a solid seal on one side, you're good. And then the other side, same thing. This goes all the way to the top. It doesn't. There's 2 holes on each individual side. I take that back. Both of them are on the second one from the bottom. So there's a top hole and there's a secondary hole. Both of them go in the secondary. And okay, that's in there. So now we got the pump in there, but we have 1 more hole. Now we're going to put this back on. Put it over the top. You kind of have to put it on, pull back a little bit on it while you put it on. Alright, now we got that part on, so it protects our wires from any water potentially getting on them. We take our last screw, put it on at the bottom. It's not all the way down. 1 second, guys. I didn't get it all the way in there. Alright, you gotta get all the way over. And then you get that on. Get that last screw in there. Get your drill. Get your battery back on. And put that back in there. Alright, now, so we look at the side of the pump. This side looks a little bit more, so I don't like it. That side had a little bit of gap. Can you see that gap right there in the screw? potentially right there. So that wasn't tightened down all the way. So now I want to make sure that when it's tight, it's sealed. Okay. Now I'm gonna take we still have a little water in here. Okay. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take my clamps off so that the water could go inside the pump housing. I take the clamps off of it, and I pick up the pump, and I grab and I squeeze the hose. You see the water moving in there? When I squeeze the hose, I'm moving the water around. And the purpose I'm doing this is so I can see on the seal itself if I have any kind of leak, if the water didn't get sealed correctly by the gasket. But by God's grace, I did it correctly, and everything is tight. Get these wires back on, and we are starting to work backwards to put this machine back together. Okay, put the wires on. What I like to do, especially when I'm working on control boards, I like to take pictures of everything. I'm somewhat experienced when it comes to appliance repairs by God's grace, but even I myself take a lot of pictures so that I don't have any kind of surprises at the end. If something is not hooked up correctly, if I have too many wires, I take a picture of it and I'll just follow the pictures so that I'll have some kind of schematic knowing where each individual wire came out of. Okay? Another thing that I've done before, I've left my clamps on there. The LG washing machine, we're fortunate you have a hole at the bottom, so all you have to do is tip the machine up and take your clamps off of there. But you want to make sure before you leave that this didn't move off, or you didn't pull any of these hoses off while we're moving the pump around, alright? Check your wiring, and now we're going to put it back together. Let's get the front panel. We got our screws handy, the ones that are going to hold our machine back together, and we are probably 5 minutes away from being finished. Alright, so on the bottom of the washer there is a 3 feet that this slides into. On both sides you got 1, 2, 3. It won't go on without that. You pop this door right here, make sure you take it off, because once you screw it on and this door is locked, there's no way for me to get my hand in there, right? So you want to push this off, put this to your left side so you can kind of guide it with your body, and you pick this up. You hold it in, put this on your shoulder. It's kind of dirty, you're going to get your clothes a little bit dirty whenever you do this type of work, but it's probably the least of your problems. You're not too worried about that. Put one of these screws on. As soon as you have your first one on, you're fine, because now that's holding it in place. Let's come to this side. Put the secondary screw back in. Alright, make sure your holes are lined up. And we do that. Perfect. Now, next thing that we need to do is fish for the screws that hold these kind of grayish. They're not the stainless steel part. These are the door lock mechanism screws. So you pull this boot back, you get your hand in here, and make sure you don't unplug it whenever you move in this door lock mechanism part. Here's how the door lock goes in there. So what I do is I'll work it, push it to the back, put one of my screws in, and I hold it, put my secondary screw in. Just get it started a little bit, because you don't want to, if you do use a drill, I'm sure for you guys or ladies who use drills and stuff like that, you know that you don't want to start a screw, you know, to strip something out, you know. Manufacturers use plastic for most of these parts because they like to save money, and so not a lot of things are made out of metal anymore in today's day and age. It's all plastic. So if you over tighten something, you use too much torque on your drill, and you over tighten it thinking that you need to go that far, you're just gonna strip it, and it's not gonna, you're gonna lose its function, and you'd have to buy a brand new one just because you stripped it out. So don't get too zealous with your drills, or if you do, turn down the torque on your drill to use it as a screwdriver, not as a drill. You're not making a hole in anything. Alright, so now we got our door boot. Remember the lip that we had on there? First we had to get it on there. So now we got it all the way around the lip. here's a trick on how to get your door boot back on there. You can use a screwdriver, which is pretty good, but I use a flathead screwdriver in my knee. So first you put this ring back on here at the top, and you use the left side. So you start it all the way to the left. It's just like from 12 o'clock to 6 o'clock, okay? So now my spring is at the bottom at 6 o'clock and at 12. I put my knee right here so that if this spring wants to come out, it will not pass my knee, okay? So then I start making it work around this side. But usually when I get about 3 or 4 o'clock, it gets pretty tense, right? So from this point forward, I can't use my hand anymore. So I will use a screwdriver, or if you have one of these, be careful so you don't cut the boot, okay? You don't want to stick this knife in that boot. You put that in there, you put that on, and voila, it fell right into the groove. Get underneath it, make sure it's on. It's on all the way. This is on. Boom. Door opens, door closes. The boot is back on. The purpose of this boot right here, if you ever have any rips or tears, you're going to have water dripping everywhere. The purpose of this is to create a seal between this glass and inside the tub. So up to this point, if the boot is not ripped at the bottom, this boot is still good to go for a couple more, depending however long. But whenever you have a small tear here, usually we'll call an appliance repair company to come to your house and figure out why your washing machine is leaking. Let's put our tools back. Like they taught us back in up north, there's a lot of guys that work in the unions, and I worked in welding and pipe fitting, and those guys are all about tool accountability. So you need your tools. Anytime you're working with tools, you want to make sure you know where they're at. Let's put this on first. Put this through the hole here at the bottom. Your drain tube, which is a little clogged up right now, so it's not really doing us any favors by being clogged up like that. But that happens usually when people come from the beach. They go swimming and there's a lot of sand in their clothes, and so that's a short screw. We need a long one. That's fine. I'll get us a longer one. Just a minute here. This is the guy I made before. Okay. Put this guy on. Just pull the pump a little bit forward. So that's done. Where's the other one? It's right here. On this side. Okay. Now that part's done. We can... I usually like to, whenever I put this back on, I come from this side and put it in these holes first and lift it up on this side. So it's a little tricky to make sure you're in these holes first. Up here, and work it up. You clamp it on there, and then you can actually close this part. Now, obviously we have a little bit of rust over here, but when we put this back on, if we're lucky, this is going to line up correctly. And in spite of the rust and the detergent, we have our 4 long screws. You want to get these started, and kind of look in there. It's like, okay, I see the holes a little diagonally, so I go diagonally on that side. On this side, I'm pretty close to the hole. Go down that side, and voila, perfect. Now you pull all of them, and then you kind of torque them down just a little bit. You want to drop them in there because these will make it all the way down into the tub, so definitely don't do that. Okay, that's up, that's up. And our last one, that would be good as golden. Plug it back in. Alright. This one is a little cracked because it got so much detergent in there. Now, diagnostic mode, plug our machine back on. The only reason I'm putting it in diagnostic mode now is so I can advance through the cycles a little bit faster. Plug the machine back in. Plug it on. Diagnostic mode, soil, spin, power, everything lights up. The way you advance through the diagnostic mode is the first time you hit start. Door lock mechanism already locked. And that's the first thing that comes on is the drain pump. So the first part of diagnostic mode, the drain pump's coming on. You can listen back there to the noise of the water is draining. That little bit of water that we had left in there, this machine will not go into spin cycle if there's water in the tub. We advance to the next part of the Diagnostic mode, make sure we get it level. On level ground, it goes through the first spin cycle, goes up to about 55, 60 RPMs. Hit start one more time, it goes to the secondary part of the spin cycle, which is the higher RPMs. Usually locks out at about 110, 120. On the newer machines, you'll probably get up to 120. On the older machines, right now you're at 95, 99. And that represents the rotations per minute. So it's getting up pretty fast. Whenever you're doing a diagnostic mode, you never want to have clothes in there, because you're getting up to 125 rotations per minute and you have clothes in there. This machine will bounce everywhere because the clothes don't have enough time to balance itself in the load to sit on the outside of the tub. So make sure whenever you fix it, when you take it apart, take everything out. Just leave water in there, not clothes. Alright? Now we're getting out of the spin cycle. We're going to go through the water valve, and all the diagnostic mode is the main control board. You're sending electricity to every single component in the unit. We started off with door lock mechanism, drain pump. Now we're going through the water valves. This has two different water valves, a hot one and a cold one. Single solenoid on the hot side. Come over here so you can see. Now one of the water valves opened up. I hit it again, and a different one opens up, okay? So this is how you advance. This is how you test in all the different solenoids on the water valves, okay? Go to the next one. Secondary one opened up again. Now this one over here opens up. See what I'm saying? So they obviously haven't used a lot of these because all this stuff is clogged up. It's pretty nasty in here. And that's the last one that opens up on that side. So, you see how we put this back on there? If this was lowered, we could potentially have water dripping all over the place. But there's a seal in here. And now we're out. Now, what we're testing is the motor. This is the motor of the machine. There's a stator motor, an electric motor. I like the LG washing machine opposed to any machine on the market. The Samsung's pretty much the same as the LG, but the diagnostic mode is a lot more user-friendly with the LG opposed to the Samsung. That's just my personal choice. I don't have any problems with Samsung itself, but I don't like the fact that you have to go through 7 different diagnostic modes just to move the machine around. And again, this will be the circulating pump motor, but on this machine we only have one pump. There's 2 pumps on that pump housing. This one only takes 1. Is your drain pump, and here comes the drain pump. Now all the water that we have in there is going out, and we are pretty much finished. I don't see any water leaking from anywhere over here on the ground. That means that we did everything correctly. Our tub to hose, tub to drain pump hose is on correctly. The drain pump doesn't have any space in between the pump itself and the pump housing. The drain hose itself is correct, so we didn't do anything inappropriate. And that finishes our diagnostic mode. Last thing that happens, you wait for the door lock mechanism to unlock, and voila. And there's an empty drain. There's a drained out machine. So, folks, took us what, 35 minutes? Not necessarily that difficult of a repair, but if you like to tinker, if you want to do it yourself, we have another video on our website. First Source Servo here in Austin is the biggest distributor in the city of Austin that sells parts. So it's located off of Kramer and Breaker if you want to pick up some parts. Most important thing you would need is you need your model number. Right here you have a model number and a serial number. You take this model number, preferably on your desktop computer, type in that model number on SearsPartsDirect.com. You pull up the schematic, and once you pull up the schematic, go down to the bottom left hand side of the machine so you can see the drain pump. If you have 2 pumps, make sure you look at the pump on the left. That would be your drain pump. The OE error code is what came up over here, and that's what we replaced for that. So, my name is Paul. Patriot Appliance Repair is the name of my company. Appreciate you spending a little bit of time with me today. God bless you guys. Bye-bye.